Hi and welcome. My name is Adrian Bertolini and I want to welcome you to the launch of the Virtual STEM Expo. I am the co-founder of the It Takes a Spark and Youth Entrepreneurs and STEM conferences, and I'll be your host today as part of this launch. So I know we've got people from around Australia joining us via YouTube live stream, and we also have some wonderful teachers and students from Malvern Valley Primary School who are joining me on the Zoom. And let me just begin by acknowledging the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land where I am in Victoria. And I also pay respect to the elders past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge their spiritual connection to country. Now, for those of you who are watching on YouTube live stream, you'll see that there is a chat box on your right-hand side. If you can jump on there and tell us who you are and where you're watching from today, that would be fantastic, because there'll be an opportunity as we go through this presentation, this launch, that you can ask questions of Megan. So let's get started by having you ask some questions, or not some questions, but telling us who you are and where you're coming in from today, like what school you're from and what region of Australia you're coming in from. Okay, while you're doing that, let me give you a bit of background on the conferences. So Rachel and I created the conferences because we noticed a need in the community. And what we found when we did a bit of research was that the research showed that young people, and in particular girls, began turning off from science and maths and what is the possibilities around STEM from around grade 3 or grade 4. And part of that was because of parental lack of understanding around the sciences and the maths. Part of it was the way that STEM subjects were taught in schools. And part of it was mainly because, people, teachers and students alike, really don't have much of an experience in how cool actually science, technology, engineering, and maths and arts can really be. So we created the It Takes a Spark and the Yes Conference to bring as many students together with teachers to co-learn, co-lead, and co-design STEM learning together. And that's a unique sort of conference, because often what you have is conferences for kids or your conferences for teachers. No one else does this sort of thing. And one of the reasons we really created it in that way was that we believe that students can teach teachers as well as teachers teaching students. And by having that sort of dynamic, it would make a profound difference to both groups of people. The other aspect that we really wanted to create for these conferences is that we connect students and teachers with the best thinking and practice that's happening across all schools from all education sectors, whether you're in a government school, a Catholic school, or an independent school, and connect them to industry, organisations, and universities. And what we've found when we do that sort of work and create these sort of conferences is that there is an extraordinary level of energy and excitement at these conferences. It actually ignites thinking and action. And ultimately, our goal with our conferences is that they become these sharing and networking hubs for communities where the conferences run. And we would love these to change the ecology, or to create an ecology of STEM learning across all the schools in that region. Now, since we began the conferences in 2017, we had our first one in 2017 here in Melbourne. We have had over 2,400 teachers and students who participated in and were impacted by our conferences. And next year, we will be having 6 conferences planned so far at this point in time. So we will begin the year with the inaugural Tasmanian conference on May 26th. There'll be 2 conferences in Toowoomba, a boys and a girls. There is 2 conferences in Melbourne and a Perth one. We're in fact currently planning for our 2020 Perth one, since WA actually has all of its the ability to host a conference at this point in time. So enough about that. So I'm really excited to welcome and introduce the extraordinary Megan Gilmour, who will be with us today as our launch and keynote person. Megan will be presenting at our 2021 Toowoomba Mini It Takes a Spark conference. And she founded Missing Schools Incorporated, which is a national not-for-profit initiative that connects students with serious illness to their classrooms using telepresence robots. So let me stop sharing my slides and welcome to Megan. Now, also joining us on this call is a group of Year 5, Year 6 students and teachers from Malvern Valley Primary School who will be leading the Q&A session with Megan once she gets going. So Megan, if you want to come off mute so we can see you and hear you. There you are. And I think we'll go to full screen here so I can see you personally. So do you want to just start talking there?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Adrian, for such a great welcome and for all the work you're doing to bring this to us all. It's really a wonderful initiative.
You're welcome. So for those of you who are on the Q&A live stream, on the YouTube live stream, feel free to ask questions on the chat area. What will happen is that Rachel will give me the question, because I can't watch the YouTube live stream at this point in time. And from that, I will ask the questions of Megan when we get to the point of asking questions. So Megan, over to you.
Okay, well, thank you once again. It's so wonderful to be here and to get to talk about STEM with you, and science, technology, engineering, art, and of course maths, science and art, art and science. So this is a little talk about the healing power of connection. We humans are hardwired to connect, and we're hardwired to connect because our survival depends on it. And in 2009, when I entered a journey with my then 9-year-old son of his 2-year illness, I never thought that I'd be here talking to you about robots. So these robots have been life-changing for the students with serious illness who we support by shining a bright light on their education. Did you know that around Australia, more than 60,000 kids with serious illness or even an injury are at home or in hospital missing school? Some miss days and weeks, and others miss months and even years of school. And of course, they miss their learning, their friends especially, and their fun, and their connection to their own community, which is the school. So my organisations, Missing School and Robots for Good, we put robots, telepresence robots, into the classroom of students with serious illness when they can't be at school. So these kids can dial into class and to see there and be there, and to be seen and heard, and take their lessons in real time from wherever they are. They can even move their robot around just like they're in the classroom. So no longer absent, these students can join their classes with their friends and their teachers. That could be maths or English or science or art or even music. I think it's probably best for you to see how this works in practice and in the classroom, and to hear from some of your peers about what it means to them. If you want to play that video now, Adrian, that would be great.
Okay, let me do that.
I wanted to be at school, but I couldn't, and it made me angry. We missed Ayla a lot when she was in hospital. When I didn't have the robot, it was quite torturing. I think school is supposed to be for making friends. You get more than one friend and learning with your teacher.
So Missing School started when my son was in hospital. He had a bone marrow transplant and missed almost 2 years of school. And I noticed how, even though he was prepared to go through those treatments and deal with the illness itself, what he missed most was being at school, playing with his friends, knowing what was going on, and just being a part of that community. My vision is that every child, every student in Australia who misses school because of a serious illness gets to connect to their classroom from wherever they are, whenever they can.
It's like having a classroom in my house and a classroom at school. There's a pupil, a robot pupil in the classroom.
We are usually doing an activity that the whole class are doing together, so Ayla can be part of this. It's almost as if she's still there. It's a pretty easy, straightforward thing for us to do, and it's positive for everyone.
Well, we can see her, and then she can see us, and she will know what we're doing. The screens have face, and this part's body, and then the things here, the arms, and then the wheels are the legs. I can see my friends in the class without having to go there.
Connection to the classroom is so important because these kids need their friends in their toughest times.
It changed things a lot. I was definitely happier.
Well, I think that says it all. Just making sure I'm back on sound. Yes. So at Missing School, we've been working on solving this problem of loneliness and isolation for students who can't be at school because of their illness. And we're showing the way that difficult problems like not being able to go to school can be solved by combining art and science. And when I walked out of Sydney Children's Hospital at the end of 2011, holding my son's hand alongside my daughter and husband, I promised myself I wouldn't turn my back on kids like Darcy, my son, who need their schools in their toughest times. Well, who knew that on the Scrabble board of life, that L-O-V-E-S, loves, can be rearranged to spell solve, S-O-L-V-E. Who knew what a great helper a robot can be? It definitely takes a spark. So remember, you can use your special insights and the things that happen in your life and your talents to solve problems through the art of science and the science of art. But courage always comes before confidence. You won't be confident at first, but you have to take courage to try out things, to stay curious and to be brave. Because with your unique gifts, you can make the world a better place for everyone.
Great. So do you want to now jump into asking questions, Megan?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so I am now going, this is the part that we learn how to do all of this together. So I have a question. Let's see. So is there a Laura who's going, or so actually a Laura or a Harper who wants to ask a question? So if you just take yourself, your video, put your video on, Laura, and unmute yourself. Oh, there's Harper. Great, there you go.
Hi, is Mr. V, is Laura here?
No, she's not in, so you'll have to do her questions if that's okay.
Okay, so one of Laura's questions was up here. I'm just going to find it. So one of Laura's questions, can the robots go outside?
What a great question. And thank you, Harper, for standing in to ask these questions for Laura. Yes, they can. They can work as long as they have an internet connection. So they can go into the playground. Obviously, you need to be a little bit careful about the different types of, ground and terrain that they're on. So, they mightn't go so well on grass, for example. but definitely on concrete and other surfaces like that, they can move around. Just have to have a modem or a school Wi-Fi network for them to be able to work that way.
Okay, and do you mind if I read out one more of Laura's questions?
Please do.
So are the robots easy to control?
They are very easy to control. I've tried them out with lots of people, including my mum and dad, who are in their early 80s. And I've provided them with a link, and they just use their iPad or even a mobile phone, and of course a laptop you can use. And it's pretty straightforward. You just use your cursor or even a mouse or your trackpad, and you can move forwards and backwards and turn them around left and right. We can even make them do a pirouette and turn full circles. Yeah, so they're very cool.
And you've got one behind you.
I do. Do you want me to show you?
Yes, please. Thank you.
So this is the top of the robot on the screen. It's facing up at the moment because it's not in a call, but that's basically where your face would appear.
Ooh.
And so just showing you this down here, you saw it on the video. This is the speaker, which you can turn up and down, and we go right down to the base there, and you can see the wheels, and it's on its charger at the moment because they need to be charged. And that's essentially the robot. So it's as easy as clicking a link to join.
There's questions coming in, and you can stay there, Harper. Thanks for doing that, but would like to keep your face there. How much does it cost to actually build the robots?
To build the robots, I'm not exactly sure, but because we get these robots from the US, but they retail currently at around $5,000 a robot.
Wow.
They were about half that 3 years ago when we started to acquire them for this project. And recently, because of the pandemic, the need for these robots has really been exponential. And so, and because of the pandemic, a lot of the components have gone up in pricing as well. So they have gone up a little bit, but they're still very cost effective in terms of what they can accomplish. What I didn't say in my presentation was that sometimes we can use the robot for more than one student, not at the same time, although that's also possible, but we can timetable the robot so that multiple students in the school could dial into their classes at different times. And in one school, in fact, the school you saw on the video, we have 2 robots in the same class because 2 students are needing a robot to join their class every day.
Wow. And I'm getting all of these great questions from people on the Malvern Valley kids, and they're going, what's the battery capacity and how far can they go? They're all really interested.
6 hours, 6 hours.
So really a whole day of school.
Yeah, and they can still be in a call when they're on their charger as well, but which can work in a classroom if they need charging, because oftentimes, and none of the students on the call will be surprised to know that teachers don't necessarily like the robot just to roll around during a class. The robot in the classroom needs to stay with the rules of the class as well. So it can be on its charger if it needs some charging up, even if it's on a call.
Are they all the same color and the same design?
They're the same design, these particular OmniLabs ones, but they, the thing I love about these robots, and we did try many of them, I think this is a really important point in any process you do, any change process or science or art, is to test things and see which works best. And we did that at the beginning, and we really love these robots. They can, most of their components, a lot of their components are 3D printed, which means that the robot, the production of the robot happens very quickly. And it means that the company that produces them can make changes to the robot and put that out into the world very quickly versus other slower types of production. And they can, because of that, they can print them in different colors. So red, white, or actually any color that you want. The those colours come at a different cost point, but it's all possible.
I'm getting lots of questions. Henry asked a great one. Is it, do the kids who are sick use them in play and recess, like in that social, apart from actually being in the classroom with the teachers? Do they interact with the other kids at play and recess, even though they're not running out there in the playground? And can they get wet? Luna just asked as well.
So they can't get wet because they are electronics. These are great questions, everyone. I'm so excited and to hear the question about whether these robots can be used for social activities. Absolutely. So we've used these, or students in fact have used these robots just to simply dial into school and have lunch with their friends, or even to play games. And they've also been used to attend graduations or assemblies or go to the library. And I think this is such a great question, because one of the main reasons that we have taken this initiative is to support social connection, because that's what we felt was not able to be achieved if you're not at school. Sure, you could have a teacher come to you, or you could have a tutor, but how do you get to see your friends if you're not actually there? Or even beyond your friends, your whole class, and how do you know what's happening at school? So the social aspect of it is really important. We also say that in planning for the use of the robot, that students themselves get to say how they'd like to use it and what classes they would like to attend. If they can only attend for a few hours a day, what would be their preference? And because we use evaluation, so what we do is we survey and we monitor what's happening with the robots. And because we've tracked all of the data, another important thing to do in your experiments is to, capture data and work out what's happening. We have found that the most positive benefit reported by students, parents and teachers is the social connection.
Yeah. Now I've got a question. There's a couple of questions here that are sort of tied. How many students are currently using the Missing School program each year? And the other one is, how can schools apply, or how do students get into this program if they have a student who misses a lot of school due to being, consistently ill or quite sick?
Yes, so we have just finished our pilot. So a pilot is the stage where you test to see if this idea that you have is going to work in the real world. And we've done a 3-year pilot across Australia. Across that time, we supported and are supporting, probably about 20 to 30 students now. But across that time, we've supported or have supporting over 100 students. That doesn't tell the whole picture though, because what we count in that connection is all of the classroom peers that are also connected to their friend who's not able to attend. So that's been, that effect has been over 3,000 classroom connections, like 3,000 students. And of course, many, many hundreds of teachers who have learned how to use robots in their classrooms, and also teachers who have been observing the process. So the application, what we're working on now is scaling this. So we've tested the idea. We know that it works. Obviously, we found some things that don't work as well. And now we want to scale it, which is to extend it and expand it so that we can support more and more students through what we've learned. The application process is just via our website. There's a link on the Missing School website, which says robots, and there's an online form and people put in their name and details and we follow them up and see if and how we can support them.
There was a couple of questions again that are tied, which is not so much about the robots themselves, but it's about you, which is, was there any times when you doubted yourself? If so, what convinced you to keep going? And did you have a mentor?
Oh, this is a fantastic question. Yes, I still have mentors. I have many mentors. I would highly recommend this, no matter what level you are at in your learning, is to have people who have been there before and done things, to teach you, and even just to help you to work through obstacles and share their knowledge with you. And sometimes you need more than one mentor because you'll be working across different, well, I would call it domains. So you might be having you might want to expand your technical knowledge, or you might want to expand your communication skills. So there's all these different domains. And the question about believing in myself, or
Doubting yourself.
or doubting myself, I can tell you that at least once a day I want to give up. And that's because I'm always moving to the next stage. And the next stage, remember I said courage before confidence? When you're doing something new, you don't necessarily have the confidence. And so you can want to give up. But I have learned that even obstacles can be incredibly powerful, good teachers, because sometimes we need to change and pivot what we're doing, and we encounter an obstacle and think that's going to stop us. But what we actually do when we move through it is we discover a better way. And that has been my experience. So I experience wanting to give up all the time. I do doubt myself, but I always trust the process, and I always know there'll be someone who can help me. And that comes back to mentors, and all those might just be all those people around us that are supporting us to do this work.
What you're basically capturing there is the heart of STEM and STEM learning. The element to that, it's the obstacles and the failures that actually make the biggest breakthroughs in innovation occur.
For sure.
There was a question of how long did it take you to get to this stage? You said something about walking out of the hospital, I think it was in 2011.
That's right, yeah.
And with your son, and holding hands and going, I want to do something about this. So, because how long did it take to make this happen? And then secondly, where do you get your funding to do all of this? Because if they're $5,000 a robot.
Well, everything takes resourcing, doesn't it? And remind me to come back to that one, Adrian, and cover that one off. But I can tell you that I started in early 2012, and here I am today in 2020. And I hope I can kind of clearly give you some of the beautiful things I've discovered through this time. The first thing that I did was that I used my own experience to identify a really big problem, not just in Australia, but in the world. It's hard to connect students to their class when they're sick and they can't be there physically. But what I discovered in that first part of it was I couldn't get any real data about the size of the problem, about what you would do to fix it, and so on. And also, whose job was it to actually fix it? So the first thing that we did was in 2015, after a couple of years of research, we launched a report in Parliament House here in Canberra, and we got the Prime Minister's statement of support and the Children's Commissioner as well. But that was because we didn't just sort of go out and say, we think this is the problem. We researched it. So what we were then able to do is come at the problem with both lived experience and our ideas, as well as data and evidence. And these two things are really powerful. And so that was 2015. Then in 2017, following that one in 2016, I really worked hard to get the government to do their own report. And that happened, and that was finished in 2017. And that was also a world first. At the same time, I decided to look overseas, and I went on a trip to Finland and Sweden the Netherlands, Belgium, the UK and Canada through a Churchill Fellowship I was selected for. And that paid me, gave me the money to be able to go to those countries and ask them, well, what do you do? And to get all those answers. While I was on that trip, I actually had the opportunity to pitch to the Board of Governors of St. George Foundation. You might all have heard of St. George Bank and Westpac. So I pitched the idea there from the Netherlands for this national telepresence robot pilot and won $600,000 over 3 years to implement and test that. And then fast forward, we've done lots of things with the pilot, including taking it into every state in Australia. And the important thing that we've done that has saved us a lot of money is that we've worked with systems that are already there. And I really love this point. So we've worked with government systems and Catholic and independent systems to make sure that we're not just going off and doing it on our own, but that we're collaborating. Because we've done that, we've really tapped into so much expertise that's out there, whether it's in technology or science or the mechanics of things or communications. And that's how we've been able to do, as a very little organisation, some really big work in Australia and draw international attention as well to this initiative. So has that answered the question?
Yes. Now I'm getting questions thick and fast here. Are there ramps for robots in the school? Do the people go home with the robots? Because obviously the robots are for schooling, but those kids, you know, may not be, particularly in this period of time where there's COVID-19 pandemics and so on like that. Do they go home? Do they climb stairs? There's all these sort of questions coming through, and how far do they travel in kilometres is one of the questions that's coming through.
Yeah, well, that last one, let's kick that off. I don't know the answer to that, but it'd be a great test to run. We know they have a battery life of about 6 hours, but they also can go at different speeds. So you can control the speed of the robot on your dashboard. So I suppose the answer to that question would be, well, what speed is the robot going across its battery life? So maybe that's one we can test.
And along with that is, how fast do they travel? Are they slow or quick?
They can go fairly quick, but not so quick that they'd be dangerous. But yeah, they can sort of walk alongside you and keep up with you. You know, probably if you started to jog, they mightn't be keeping up, but they can keep up at a pretty good pace, actually.
Yep. And does anyone go home with the robots?
The robots are actually, they stay in the school, and that's because the student, they need to be in a different, well, put it this way, the best way this works is if the robot is in a location that the student would like to be in, but can't be there. And that's a different location to, where the student is. So typically, if they weren't in the classroom, they might be in a different location. Maybe they go to an excursion, for example.
Mm. Mm. So we've got some other questions here, and we'll do a few more, but we'll finish up quite soon. A number of the questions are sort of around your background. Did you have a dream of being in engineering when you were younger, or was this something else that you did? Is your background in that sort of STEM field, or suddenly you got thrust into it?
I thrust myself into it, actually, because all I did was follow the problem with curiosity. How can I solve this? What would I do? What would be the best way? And for me, it was about getting students back into that classroom. So I didn't want anybody to be standing in for them. I thought they needed to be able to see and hear themselves and be represented and take up space in their own classroom. So no, I didn't start out I've always loved science, and I'm probably the best way to describe me is as a social scientist. And it's a point I'd love to leave with everyone listening, because what I've done is I've used a robot to engineer a social situation, or to be an engineering response to a social problem. And that's what you can do. It's all about testing the best ways you can solve the problem that you really want to see solved. So I'm probably a social engineer more than even a robotics engineer.
Yeah. Now, can a high school level robotics team create something like this?
Yes, I would say yes. And actually, these robots, another reason I love them, and this will be, for when I have a few more days a week available, is to start to roll these robots out for STEM projects in schools, because these robots can be unlocked for development too. But if you think about it, you could even put, you could put that on some kind of wheel, and
Well, it's interesting, because one of the other questions was, can the robot be used for older age people? For people at universities. There's a wonderful Big Bang Theory episode where Sheldon is wandering around as a robot. And disability. So I imagine that the answer to that is yes.
The answer is yes and yes. We've just tried them with young people who are completely immobilized and be using a wheelchair, and they can move the robot using their breath through their device.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's super exciting. And also we're just starting through Robots for Good to trial them in aged care settings. And we've had a use case where it's in the home of an elderly man who actually had some falls, and his sons were able to navigate the robot around to see why he wasn't answering his phone and identify that he'd fallen. And they were able to get over there within 10 to 15 minutes to attend to him. So you can really see the power of what's possible.
Fantastic.
And I just want to say, I love these questions. What always excites me about talking to school students and young people is they really just get this so quickly, and they ask all the right questions, without coaching. Yeah.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Megan. People are starting to go, oh, we want to go to lunch. So look, I really appreciate your time and all the great questions from the Malvern Valley primary school kids, as well as everything that's been coming through on the YouTube live stream. But let me just free this up and share. The Virtual STEM Expo page is now live. You can see the link there. Just briefly about some of the things you'll find that on that page. Just like you see the extraordinary Megan sharing about what she does, we have 3 extraordinary keynote speakers who are presenting next year. One is Rosie Thomas, who shares about how she co-founded an anti-bullying project Rocket straight out of high school with her sister. Professor John T. Horner, who will be talking about astronomy, aliens, and exoplanets. And Dr. Madeline Mitchell, who's a superstar of STEM, and she talks about the wonderful world of plants. We've also got a wide range of STEM Expo talks and activities from students, teachers, and organisations from Queensland and Victoria. And what you'll find is some of the topics include machine vision and agriculture, Indigenous astronomy, artificial intelligence and machine learning, warped space and black holes from the ARC gravitational waves, and a whole range of STEM activities, including things on BBC microbits, EB3, spheros, cloud in a bottle, and much more. So if you want to head over to the Virtual STEM Expo webpage, that's the link there. It will be available from now, and you'll see all of those sort of items that you can browse now or jump in on later. And really, I want to thank all those people who did contribute to that Virtual STEM Expo. There's been a lot of people who have come together to put that. And thank you to everyone who came along today. And if you have any further questions, Megan and I will remain on for a few more minutes. and just ask your questions in the YouTube live chat box, or stay on for those who are on Zoom to ask those questions. But thank you for your time, and hope to see you next year at one of our conferences.
Thank you all.
Great. Now, how are you going to expand this program? Is it just in New South Wales, or do you do it all around Australia?
We do it all around Australia, and the Northern Territory just got it approved on their education network a few weeks ago. So that was the last state to get it through their EduNet.
Fantastic. Now, I was just looking for, I had some other questions that some people were asking. Oh, how has it changed people's lives to have these robots in the classroom?
It's
What's
been
your experience?
It's been extraordinary, especially for social and emotional connection for students who would otherwise be at home quite lonely and disconnected. That's been the really big thing. And I suppose what comes along with that is the feeling of belonging. They put students at ease when they have to come in and out of the school for treatment, you know, out to hospital and back again. It kind of really, well, you're here today on the robot, you're here tomorrow in person, and it just seems it's pretty seamless. So
now, has there been any students who didn't like the robots?
There are, and sometimes it happens into the teenage years where you know, a bit of self-consciousness.
Cool?
That's right. Yeah, it can start. We had one student who was younger and it was very cool, and then he decided it wasn't cool anymore. But we also have noticed a gender difference too. So we've had more boys in the program than girls, and different referral rates too. More boys being referred than girls. So we're not sure whether that's because girls said no to it before the referral reached us. But we do track that and take note of it for obvious reasons, so we can work out what's going on.
Can you dress the robots up to make them look cooler?
People do, and they always get named as well.
Ah, so all the robots have names.
Yeah, well, they're and the research shows this too. They're anthropomorphic. They have human-like qualities, which the research says creates more social coherence and social cohesion than, say, a laptop with Zoom.
Yeah. One of the questions I'm getting through is, what's the language of the code that's used in the background?
Oh, I don't know. So I can find that.
You just buy them as complete units, sort of stuff?
Yeah, right. We do. When I said, you know, we work with lots of stakeholders, my art in the science is to unlock people's gifts in their own domain and apply it to the problem. And so we let the robotics builders help us with anything to do with the robots, although we know a lot about them now too, and how they work and how to fix them. Yep. And yeah.
Now I've got a question here. What was the toughest decision in your life?
Oh, well, I can tell you that the toughest thing that happened to me was having my son unwell. Okay, I would say the toughest decision that occurs for me all the time is the will to keep going when you hit those obstacles. It's always a decision every single time, you know. Yeah. Do I persevere or do I give up? And if you care about it enough, you just find a way through those obstacles. And it's so rewarding when you do, because you discover, as you said, Adrian, that you discover things you wouldn't have known unless you hit that obstacle. And yeah, so I trust it now.
And I've got, have you heard of Dr. Kirana? He's doing something similar in Victoria.
No, I haven't. I would love to know more about that.
I'll pass you on here the actual spelling of the name so you can look that up.
Yeah, that would be great.
Our YouTube live stream.
Perfect.
Okay, I think, do we have one more question? One more questions coming this way, and then we'll finish up for everybody. Thanks for your time, by the way, as I'm waiting for Rachel to write this question out so I can actually see it.
Oh, it's great. I've really enjoyed it.
We've got a similar question to what's been the challenge ring. What's been your most happiest moment?
My most happiest moment in recent times was getting an incubator up and running in a very large state in Australia to scale robot use in this context across that state for students with serious illness. So
when you say an incubator, what do you mean by that?
What we're doing now is where we came up with the solution, so to put the robots in the classroom, now what we're moving to, which was always our objective, was to make sure that the governance model is in place so this becomes business as usual. And
so the group of people and the organisations involved to actually have it all happen so it is sustainable for a long time.
Yeah, government, and actually it'll be a world first to have a governance model in this. So I think that's, you know what I mean, we've iterated through our change process, and I can say this to everyone who's still on and listening. We create these things many years before they end up in the world. So what I'm doing now was something that I planned 3 years ago. And you just keep working on it, maybe in the background, the side ground, whatever. But you see, it's created before you do it. And so when you actually pass that milestone, sometimes you can whiz past it. But I tend to these days stop and say, and celebrate that moment, because I know how long it took to get there and how much effort. So, you know, yeah.
But you're also talking about like a 3-year lag time before something actually is coming into reality. And, you know, that's how long some of these projects, particularly in the social realm, take to actually come into existence.
They do. And somebody's got to have the vision and hold that vision still until it happens. So, you know, that's it.
Thank you so much, Megan. Thanks for your time. Thanks for everyone for joining me. I'm going to end the YouTube live stream. If you've joined us through YouTube, thanks for coming along. Hope this has made a difference, and go and join us in the virtual STEM Expo. See you later.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you. Thank you all. It's been wonderful to be here.
Thanks, Megan. That was great.